Today I'm going to show you how to make a cute candy cane wreath using just a few supplies. The first thing that we're going to use is this wreath frame. It's in the shape of a candy cane. This actually came from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to give you a better view here in just a moment because I know I have a dark shirt on. You're going to need some wire cutters or needle nose pliers, some sharp scissors, some floral wire. I use 26 gauge floral wire. You're going to need some ribbon. We're going to be using some white ribbon for mine, and that's 2.5 inch, green 1.5 inch ribbon, a couple of different shades of red, and we have a 2.5 inch ribbon that we're going to use to cover our candy cane with. The other things that you may optionally have or want to use is something to go in the center of your candy cane, and today we're going to use this cute little bell, which also came from Dollar Tree. And you can use some floral spray, and you don't have to use anything. So also, if you have a hot glue gun, you might need a touch of hot glue or some kind of adhesive that's quick drying. So I personally use hot glue, but you can use like super glue, and you'll see why we need that. So give me just a moment, and I'm going to reposition the camera, and we'll get started. I'll show you the wreath that we're going to be making. So this is our actual wreath, and this one in particular has a floral spray in the center of it. This is what the finished product will be looking like. It looks better up on the wall, and maybe at the end I will show you what it looks like on the wall. So let me reposition my camera. And I'm going to try and stay out of the video, but I'm not going to guarantee. So I have the camera behind my back. I'm going to zoom in on our workspace here. And now you can see a better view of that candy cane wreath. So as I said, this actually came from Dollar Tree. This is about 20 inches tall and about 8 inches from point to point. So in order to do this, you're going to begin with your base ribbon. So as I said, we're going to be using this peppermint, this cute little peppermint ribbon. This actually came from, I believe, Michael's. But you can use any ribbon, but you will want to use a 2.5 inch ribbon. I'm going to cut the end off to make it an even end. And I'm going to start at the bottom of my candy cane. I actually have a little board over here with a peg so it'll hold my ribbon and help it from getting tangled, but I guarantee it's going to get tangled. So we're going to start by overlapping the ribbon and letting it hang over the edge of the frame. So the frame's down here, and the ribbon is hanging about halfway off. So I'm going to begin by wrapping this around the edge. I'm going to kind of loop it around there so it'll secure a little bit. So this is wired ribbon. That's critical that you get wired ribbon. And I'm going to begin by wrapping that around. As I get to this point, I'm actually going to now layer this and pull it up a little bit so that it starts spiraling up the candy cane. Now this is where my ribbon will get twisted, more than likely. When you're spiraling it up the candy cane, you just want to try and keep your rows even. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just walking it up little by little, spiraling it up the side of the candy cane. So let's get that wrapped all the way around until we get up here to the edge, to the corner, excuse me, the curve in the candy cane. Now, this is probably the only ribbon that you need a larger quantity of. I have a super size roll. Most of your ribbon comes in 10-foot rolls, and that will be more than adequate to cover one of these. So whatever you decide to go with your base on, whatever color or design ribbon you decide to go with your base, you'll want a larger roll. However, the remaining ribbons will just need a small quantity. So now that I'm up to the curve, I'm simply going to maneuver around, and it's going to crinkle a little around the curve. However, when we get done, as you can tell on the one that I showed you that I've already got completed, it still comes out very smooth, not very noticeable at all. And it is kind of folding over itself, and I'm going to naturally let it do that. This is not something that is difficult at all. It's a very easy level. And if you don't like the way it is, you can always unwrap the ribbon, re-roll it, and start all over again. So there's nothing permanent up to this point. And I'm just trying to keep it from crinkling too much. I'd rather it fold than crinkle. And this is where my ribbon's getting all tied up or bunched up there at my roll. Let me get a little more slack in my ribbon. When we get to this edge, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to let the ribbon go past the edge, but this is the point where we're going to use just a spot of glue to adhere it. And then I'll show you how to finish the beginning edge so that it looks nice and neat. So my wireframe is down inside of there. I'm going to bring this around one more time so I have plenty of ribbon. And I'm going to cut that off just a little overhang for right now. You don't want to cut it too short. The wire frame, I know it's difficult to see, but it's down inside of there. So now I'm going to fold this over, and again, wired edge. So I'm going to kind of bend it, and that's the nice thing about the wired edge. And I'm going to tuck this in to my wire frame. So it's actually going to be inside, my ribbon's going to be tucked inside the ribbon inside of my wire frame. This is where I use a dab of glue to adhere this spot right here. So let me get a touch of glue. I personally do not use a glue gun just because I do so much crafting with hot glue that it's not economical and it's not practical for me anymore. I started out with a glue gun, but after I burned through several of them, I decided to go with a glue pot instead. I'm going to let that set for a second. So again, I just put a dab of glue right underneath that edge. This is all tucked in, and that's not going anywhere. So while that is setting, and you don't want to push down on that when you first glue it because it is hot glue. So this is what the other end looks like. My wire frame's down in there, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tuck that ribbon inside of this little pocket. Except this one, we do not need to hot glue because we had that overhang and we looped that wire around the frame, so it's pretty secure. And that's what the other end looks like. So this is your frame now. And that's what it looks like. So we're going to set that aside. And we're now going to make the bow to put on the wire frame, your candy cane. So let's set the candy cane aside. I pre-cut some ribbon, but just to let you know, I'm cutting different lengths. So we're going to make a bow with these different lengths. This one is actually 40 inches. It's 20 inches or 40 inches folded in half. The next size down is 19 inches. So I'm just going full, or it's, what is that? So it's 19 inches when it's folded in half. I'm going to do 2 more colors. Here is a nice glittery red polka dot. And most of these ribbons came from Sam's Club. This one's going to be 36 inches, folded in half. So now I have the 18. So I'm just going a little bit smaller with each ribbon. And one more. Let me get this out of my way. And this one is actually 16 inches. So it's a little shorter yet. So now we have 4 different ribbons. And again, I'm trying to stay out of your way. Let me show you how to make the bow. So we're going to begin with a raw edge. We're going to kind of twist or pinch that together, and I do better when I've got it laid down on the mat as we pinch this together. And now we're going to hold that in our fingers. We're going to find the halfway point, which I already had because it was folded in half before. We're going to pinch, bring this over, pinch again. Now, if you do not want your bow this large, so let's look at how it compares to, if you do not want that large, and that does look pretty big, I'm actually going to trim that down a little bit. I'm going to make that smaller. I feel like that's too large, so we're going to cut these down a little bit more. So that my loop ends up being about 5 inches. So I'm actually going to cut quite a bit of this off. But the one thing that I did want to point out is that you don't need a whole lot of ribbon. So this is a great time to use scrap ribbon. If you've got scrap ribbon that you want to use up, you know how you cut a piece off and it's not the right size, or maybe it didn't match what you were working with. So my cut edges are on the back side, and that's where they're going to stay. So I've just looped it over. I've got my cut edges on the back. And now we're going to add the next ribbon, which of course I'm going to have to trim down because I went with a smaller size. But that's not a big deal. So I'm going to add that to the back of my existing ribbon. I'm going to pinch it together. I'm going to loop it around because I want my raw edge to be on the back side. And I'm going to loop this back around here. I'm not going to trim it off right now because I now want that tail. So we're going to have different lengths of tails when we get done. I'm going to do the next ribbon the same way. I'm going to start on the back. Make sure that your printed side is facing out. So you'll want to make sure the printed side is outward, like so. I'm going to loop that around. This one's going to be a little bit wider than the last, or longer than the last ribbon. Bring it around again. And so all of my cut edges are on the bottom of my hand right now. Then my last one. Put my cut edge on the bottom. And I'm looping it past so that when I go to wire this, it catches all of that wire. All right, so we have all 4 of them stacked, and we're going to spread them out here in a minute. Don't worry about how it looks at this particular point. What you want to do is get that wire and secure these. So that's where you're going to take that floral wire. And as I said, excuse me, that is a 26 gauge. And I'm going to cut a piece of wire about 24 inches long. I'm going to use my wire cutters, or if you have needle nose pliers, that will work just fine. Don't use your sharp scissors because it will dull your scissors. I'm going to find my center point on the wire, and I'm going to place that on top of my clean edges so that my twist is going to be on the back side where all the cut edges are at. So there's my back side. And we actually are going to add some tails to this, some longer tails. But we're going to do that in a separate step because I feel like for a beginner, if you are a beginner, this will be an easier way. Also, rather than twisting the wire, you see how I'm holding the wire secure with my right hand and I'm twisting with the left. That will give you a tighter fit with your wire. It'll tighten around the bows themselves. All right, so we've got the bow made. I'm going to take just a few more pieces of ribbon, and I'm going to measure out about 10 inches, and this is personal preference, however long you want them. I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to cut that off, and those are now going to become our tails. So before I go any further with my bow, I'm going to pinch that together. And I'm going to twist that right in there with my existing ribbon using the existing wire. If you can hold on to it. So I'm going to add that right into my wire. Going to hold that ribbon right next to my existing bows, my existing loops, and then I'm going to twist it again. Again, remember that you're not going to twist your hand that you're holding the wire in, you're going to twist the opposite hand. So now we have some tails added on. I'm going to do one more thing with the tails. I'm going to fold them in half, and I'm going to cut a V shape out so that they have a nice little dovetail to them. We'll do that on the opposite side. And then remember that short tail that we had earlier? I'm going to actually do that to that one as well and make a dovetail. Okay. Let's bring our candy cane back. I'm going to make sure that my shiny side, my printed side of my bows and my ribbon is facing me. I'm going to spread apart the floral wire. I have 2 stems of floral wire, and I'm simply going to place it wherever I desire on that candy cane. Turn it over, and now I'm going to tighten my floral wire just by simply wrapping it around and twisting. I'm going to get it to a certain point, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to twist the entire candy cane, guys. That'll make it tighter to the candy cane. Now, at some point, you'll notice that these wires are still here. You may choose to put a dab of hot glue on your wire to secure it a little nicer to the candy cane. Also, when we trim these wires off, which we'll do at the end, if you're going to hang this on a glass door, sometimes the wires can scratch your glass. So you can put a dab of hot glue right over the wires where you cut them so that there's no sharp edges. I'm going to leave that there for a moment because remember I said we were going to add a bell. So the first candy cane that I showed you had like a little floral spray in it. This one I thought the bell would look really cute on it. So I'm going to include that now before I secure it anymore. Take my I took my 26 gauge wire and I ran it underneath the existing evergreen pine cones and gave it a couple of twists. So I already pre-attached some wire to it. I'm going to lay that right on top of my bow in between my tails here. And I'm going to turn that over, tighten it up as tight as I can, pull and twist. You're going to want to give this a few good twists because you do not want it to come apart, slide down, etc. So twist it, and then I'm going to try and twist the whole candy cane again just to give it a little extra twist. So now we have two separate wires on the back. Can you see those two separate wires? Actually, two separate sets of wires. There's 4 wires total. I'm going to take both of those now and twist them together so I end up with one big bunch of wire. And I guarantee you that's not going anywhere right now. I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to snip off those 4 single wires. Now we have sharp edges here. So I'm going to twist them again, get them together, and I'm going to tuck this next to the candy cane. And this is the point where I might put a dab of hot glue on there just to give it some protection from scratching anyone's door, whether it be a glass door or even a wooden door. Go ahead and do that. Now you notice I haven't fluffed my bow yet. That's because I knew I was going to be twisting and turning, and so fluffing it prematurely, you're going to end up doing it multiple times, so I just wait till the end. So I've added a touch of hot glue on there. Going to let that dry. And so now it's like a rubber seal on there. Let me let that dry for a second. I will clean this off real quick before we switch to fluffing the bow. It's still a little sticky. I do use Gorilla Glue sticks in my glue pot. And of course, they're made for glue guns. They come in sizes for the mini glue guns or the regular size glue gun. That's pretty good. If I get it on my mat, it comes off real easy once it's dry. All right, so that's what we look like so far, but now we're going to spread out that bow. I'm actually going to turn it upside down while I do this. So I'm going to take my ribbons. There's that green tail in there. I'm going to pull that downward. So when you're spreading out your ribbons, it works well for me to just kind of take it and twist it, pull, and if you twisted your ribbons together really tight with the wire, if you tightened them really well, when you go to pull, it shouldn't go anywhere. I'm taking my fingers and spreading out the wired. This is where wired ribbon comes in super duper handy. And I'm trying to decide how I want it layered. I think I like the red polka dot down on the bottom a little more. Personal preference, guys, personal preference. And the green ribbon is a little sheer, and that's on purpose because I can actually loop that right over the white, and the white still shows through. Almost looks like a package there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to pull. Get that placed where I want it. And now I'm going to work on my tails. If you take your two fingers and just run it down the edge of the ribbon, it'll straighten out that tail and give it a nice cute little curve. You can also take an object like a pencil or something thicker than a pencil and make an even smaller curl. I'm going to do that with the short green one. You can also make these different lengths. So if you don't want them all the same length, you can change the length of them. But there is our candy cane door hanger. And it sure did turn out cute. I love the bell in the center. And that is ready to hang on any door or wall. They look great above a mantle or any place where you just want to add some decoration. Great for the office too. And this doesn't cost a lot out of your pocketbook. If you want more information or if you would like to learn some other techniques, visit my website at www.festivecreationsbystephanie.com. You can also email me at festivecreationsbystephanie@gmail.com. My Etsy shop is Festive Wreaths by SW. So Festive Wreaths by SW on Etsy. You can also see me on Pinterest, Instagram, and I would love to hear from you, and I would love for you to share pictures of your candy cane once you've gotten it completed or any other items that you've done. You can share those on Facebook, and of course, Facebook page is Festive Creations by Stephanie on Facebook. Share your pictures, share your creations. Show me what you're doing, and thank you so much for purchasing this tutorial.